For centuries, the picture of wealth was pretty simple. A stack of gold bars. But today, real wealth, the stuff that powers our entire world, it's actually hidden. It's inside your phone screen, it's in the motor of an electric car, and it's in those giant turbines spinning in the wind. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this secret world of commodities that, honestly, runs everything.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this, we first have to get a handle on a really basic divide in the world of investing. It's the difference between owning a piece of a company and owning a piece of the actual physical world itself.
You see, it really just boils down to this. When you buy a stock, you're betting on a business, right? You're betting on its ideas, its management, its potential to make a profit down the road. But when you invest in a commodity, you're dealing with the real deal. Tangible, raw materials that literally build and fuel our entire civilization.
And you've got to think of them as two completely different animals. A stock's price, well, that's often tied to things the company controls, a great earnings report, a brilliant new product. But commodities, oh man, they are at the mercy of massive global forces. We're talking about weather patterns that affect crops, geopolitical tensions that disrupt oil flow. Huge, unpredictable stuff.
Now, let's talk about the most famous commodity of them all, gold. I mean, what is it about this one shiny metal that has made it a symbol of wealth and security for literally thousands of years?
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. It really gets to gold's unique psychological power. I mean, think about it. Unlike a dollar bill or a company stock, gold's value doesn't depend on a government's promise or a CEO's performance. It's kind of the ultimate insurance policy for when trust in everything else starts to wobble.
And you can see this pattern play out over and over. Gold's price is basically a fear gauge for the global economy. When things get scary, like during a major financial crisis, investors run to it. When inflation gets high but growth is sluggish, it's seen as a safe place to park your money. But when the economy is humming along just right, that Goldilocks scenario, well, investors get brave. They'd rather chase higher returns in stocks, and that can be tough for gold.
Okay, so gold is about protecting wealth. But what about the commodities that actually create the technology of our modern world? Let's metaphorically peel back the cover of your smartphone.
It's a really good question to ask yourself. We tap and swipe on these amazing devices all day long, but do we ever stop and think, what's really inside here? What are the exotic, almost magical materials that make it all work? Well, the answer lies in a group of elements with a pretty misleading name.
So here's the central paradox of rare earth elements. The name itself, it's kind of a lie. They're not actually that rare. The most common one is about as abundant in the Earth's crust as copper. No, the real challenge isn't finding them. It's that they're all mixed together and spread out so thinly that separating them and refining them into a pure form is incredibly difficult and expensive.
And this is probably the best way to think about them. They're like the vitamins of technology. Just like your body only needs a tiny amount of, say, vitamin D to function properly, our high-tech world only needs a pinch of these elements. But take them away, and the whole system just grinds to a halt.
And each one of these has its own specific superpower. Neodymium, it helps create these incredibly powerful yet lightweight magnets that are absolutely crucial for electric vehicles and wind turbines. Europium and terbium, they're the reason we get those brilliant, vibrant reds and greens on our screens. Our entire green energy transition, our digital economy, it all literally depends on these 17 elements.
Okay, so if these elements are the bedrock of all modern technology, the next logical question is, who controls them? And this, my friends, is where economics and technology slam right into geopolitics.
You see, for decades, while a lot of other countries were shutting down their rare earth mines because they were expensive and, frankly, pretty polluting, China was playing the long game. They invested heavily, they mastered the incredibly complex refining process, and they basically built a near monopoly by selling them at prices nobody else could possibly match.
So what does that dominance look like in practice? Well, just take a second and let this number really sink in. 85%. That is not just some economic advantage. That is a strategic chokehold over the essential building blocks for nearly every other major economy's defense, energy, and technology sectors.
And when you look at it like this, well, the picture is just crystal clear, isn't it? That tiny little sliver on the chart represents the entire rest of the world's production combined. It's a powerful and, for some, a pretty scary illustration of global dependency. And look, this is not some hypothetical what-if scenario. We've actually seen this leverage get used multiple times. Back in 2010, an export restriction to Japan sent prices into the stratosphere. And more recently, the threat of cutting off supply has been used as this powerful bargaining chip, effectively turning these critical minerals into a political weapon.
So, you can probably guess what happened next, right? This massive dependency has kicked off a global scramble, a race to find and develop alternative sources for these materials.
Yeah, this was a serious wake-up call for the rest of the world. Now, countries like the US, Australia, Brazil, and many others are fast-tracking projects to reopen old mines, explore new ones, and build their own refining capabilities. It's all about trying to break this decades-long reliance on a single source.
And this race is being fought on two main fronts. The first front is the traditional one, find new places to dig stuff out of the ground. But the second front, and this is maybe the more interesting and sustainable one, is what's called urban mining. It's basically a high-tech treasure hunt through the mountains of e-waste we all produce every year.
And the potential here is just wild. Japan, for instance, estimates it has this massive stockpile of rare earths just sitting there, locked away in old gadgets in people's drawers. At the same time, you've got new factories popping up in Europe and some incredible new science, like flash heating old electronics to 3,000 degrees Celsius, that's making this recovery process more efficient than ever before.
So, this brings us right back to the big question. This competition for rare earths, it's not just about mining anymore. It's about who has the best technology, it's about national security, and it's absolutely about geopolitical power. As we all try to build this greener, more connected future, the answer to who controls these vital materials, well, that's going to shape the 21st century.